Immediately after Dorian, what happened was we engaged in a hot meals program because individuals needed something to eat right away. You had persons who did not have everything, lost everything. So for about 2 weeks right after we engaged in this immediate hot meals program, as we were doing assessments along with the other NGOs in terms of what we would do next. Specifically, one of the things that happened after it, we started in terms of helping individuals in terms of putting back their roofs together. Some persons, their roofs were damaged, water coming in, so we started to work with that. But then there was an area that was going neglected to see, and that was education, because what was happening, folks were bypassing the children. And one of the things in Adra, we believe that every child should have the opportunity to be in school no matter where they are. And so we dealt with roof repairs, we dealt with rebuilding some schools back, we dealt with supplies in terms of furniture, in terms of school backpacks for children so they could get back. In education, we dealt with over 16 schools that we dealt with in terms of repairs. Over 5,000 desks and chairs we gave to various schools that we outfitted who had just lost all of their furniture. Over 7,000 backpacks we did for children between Abaco and Grand Bahama, and making sure that they have something. Adra is not just relief, it's also development. And so we recognize even within the Bahamas at that time, especially when COVID hit, that showed that, hey, we import everything. And so one of the things we tried to do at that same time was to help individuals to try to feed themselves. So we did over 700 community garden kits for individuals to try to help them to begin to feed themselves so we could deal with this food security issue. And so one of the things we're looking at is to continue with the rebuilding of homes in Abaco. We're looking to do another 30 homes there, and so hopefully this funding would help us in terms of being able to get those 30 homes out to those individuals. So that is one of the biggest things we're looking to do, to continue to help people rebuild, to have a home that they can live in, to be able to make sure that they get back some normalcy in the midst of all of the madness that they've had to deal with. It's all about service to humanity. We're an entity that we believe that we are here to serve people, and to serve people so everybody can live the way God wants them to live. So for us, it's all about service.
Go to togetherbahamas.com to donate to help them continue their work. Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
The government has approved BPL's fuel surcharge. Prime Minister Philip Davis, making the announcement Tuesday, explained how the initial less than $20 increase to be reflected on November bills will affect the average consumer, and the initiatives the government has undertaken to soften the blow.
Those who consume less, and a great many households fall in this category, will see a lower increase, 2 cents, instead of 4.3 cents per kilowatt hour. Second, the increases are phased in over time, allowing consumers to plan ahead. And third, the VAT ceiling for electricity will now be raised from $300 to $400.
The increase has been held off until now, the government seeking to synchronize its timing with a period of lower energy usage.
Our economy is growing, adding new jobs every month. And I wanted to see more Bahamians working before we ask families to pay a higher light bill. When times are tough, coming up with an extra $20 a month is no small thing. Introducing the increase at this time of the year coincides with lower electricity consumption as opposed to the increase coming during the spring and summer months when people consume more electricity.
The increase comes amidst a series of adverse global conditions, including higher oil prices. The Prime Minister says it's all part of a big picture of energy reform.
Solar panels will be added to public buildings like schools, clinics, and libraries. The launch of a 60-megawatt solar farm in New Providence in the next 12 months means that approximately 25 to 30% of the island's electricity needs will come from solar, resulting in less expensive, cleaner energy for residents.
Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
online. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing. Indeed, we have an exciting press briefing planned for you today. The news has been buzzing, and it's going to be buzzing even more after today. To introduce our guest for today, I'm going to welcome Press Secretary Clint Watson.
Thank you, Jillian. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to all of you tuning in for us on the various stations and feeds. Good to have all of you back here. Seems as if we were just here a few days ago. I guess we were. But to continue our dialogue and what the Davis administration is doing, how we're handling it, being upfront with you, and taking those questions that you may have. This morning, we're going to talk more about what's happening with Bahamas Power and Light, and to give you further clarification on what we're doing with the increase. And how that came about. I know a lot of you still have more questions that you need addressed and answered. We're going to take care of that for you this morning as well. And then, of course, this is a special month, it's Youth Month, and so the Minister of Youth and his team are here to talk about Youth Month and what you can expect in that. And then, of course, we want to talk to you about Bahamas Motorsports, which you've probably never heard before. You'll hear about it today. And then, of course, whatever other questions you may have for us. And our Vendor of the Week, we'll highlight that for you. So we have a lot to get accomplished this morning, and I think it's important to begin with just setting the context for where we are today so that you understand. I know there's been a lot of dialogue since we were last here on Tuesday talking about the proposed increase at Bahamas Power and Light. There's been a lot of analysis, and we want to get some clarification because we believe there's still a lot of misinformation that's out there. And our job is to ensure that the Bahamian people understand clearly what's happening, how it will impact them, and why it's being considered for this point in time. The Davis administration has always been keen to govern with people in mind. And that's not just a slogan. For the past year, the administration has proven that to you by the policies it's made, by the decisions it's made, by the priorities it's made, to prove to you that people are being put first. And that always may not settle well because there are tough decisions that have to be made that impact people. But I always want people to put in perspective that a tough decision now is being done now so that you enjoy benefits of it a little later. So not everything that happens now will benefit you now. It sometimes has a long-term effect, an impact. And while BPL is planning to increase electricity, the Davis administration is busy while BPL is restructuring and getting things in place to modernize what it does. The Davis administration is busy ensuring that energy costs will go down under this administration at the end of the day, ensuring that we have alternative sources of energy in this country. That's the bigger conversation. Yes, it's hard to swallow the pill now that electricity is going up, but the long-term plan, and what you will see and realize within this administration and this term in office, is you will see a better run utility company. You will see a more efficient utility company, and you will hopefully realize better rates at the end of the day. That's the side that this government is working on. That's the plans that this government is working on. You've seen it in the blueprint of change, for change, to ensure that we incorporate other forms of renewable energies, to ensure that we're able to incorporate solar. All of that is a part of the plan to ensure that the costs are passed on to you and that you can afford electricity in this country. But like any doctor, in order to fix a problem, you have to have the surgery. You have to cut the patient open, deal with the problem, sew them back up, put them in recovery, and then we see the benefits of going through that exercise. And that's what it's hard right now. It's a tough pill to swallow. No one wants this to happen. But this is a part of the surgery that we have to do to be able to ensure that at the end of the day, the patient can walk wholly and you can benefit from it. And that's what we're doing with BPL. It's a tough decision that administrations, we talk about kicking the can down the corner, administrations in the past have kicked it down the road. We're not kicking it down the road. We're picking up the can, and we're going to deal with it, and we're going to address it. A lot of the reporting and analysis that we've seen based on the idea that the hedging program was ended, that's false. The program was never ended. And so that means a lot of the analysis that surrounds the hedging is therefore incorrect. We released statements yesterday to that effect. It's incorrect. There's no doubt that high energy prices are affecting countries and consumers across the world. It's a very serious issue, not just in the Bahamas. A hedge is a good tool in our toolbox. You get a stable price on some percentage of your fuel, but you risk paying more than market price should prices drop. Sometimes governments and companies lose on their hedge. So stepping back, bigger picture, the real sustainable way to protect the country is to move to cleaner, more affordable energy. That's what the Davis administration is doing. We're going to be the first government in the history of our country to make significant progress on cleaner, more affordable energy, and those results will speak for themselves. You'll be able to judge this administration on that. I want to invite the CEO of BPL to come and to talk to us, Siobhan Cambridge, and give you more clarity on the hedging. And to also take any questions that you may have that's still unclear in your mind. We want to ensure, colleagues, that you're very clear so that you're able to understand as you write your stories, deliver your stories. And so I'm going to ask him to come and do that. And whatever questions you have, you can take that on. And we'll address some other issues as we move along. So come for me, CEO.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I was invited here as the CEO, but now I realize I'm a surgeon. So, but this morning I was asked to bring some clarity to the situation with the hedging that we have at BPL. So what we have is a situation where our fuel is hedged. It's currently hedged. It's been hedged from 2020 until now. Hedging in general is a speculative financial tool that is used throughout the industry for various reasons. Whether you're seeking to bring stability to your prices, whether you're seeking to take advantage and leverage a position in the market at a particular time. There are any number of reasons why one may hedge. It just so happened that back in 2020, when the hedge went into place, we had a situation where there was an abundance of supply in the market. Due to the COVID shutdowns, the demand was low, and so the market price of fuel went to an all-time low. That was an ideal time to place a hedge, because there was nowhere for the price to go but up. So as far as when you are looking at probabilities, the probability that it would have gone lower was very, very low, and the probability that it would have gone high was very, very realistic. And that's what happened. So the hedge that was made, it was a good time, and the hedge was the proper thing to do. We were in the money on the hedge back then, and we continue to be in the money on the hedge. Now, the way the hedge was structured is that because as time goes out, the risk of prices going up increases. As you heard, a hedge consists of a number of small contracts that expire over a period of time. And that's why we make mention of a declining hedge strategy. So within the first year, the plan at the time was to hedge 80% of the volumes that the organization used. In the second year, that dropped by 20% to 60% of the volumes. The third year to 40%, and in the fourth year, it would be 20%, and so on. Now, the strategy behind that is that if I'm selling you a product, and I'm saying that the price is going to be this for 1 year, I'm able to comfortably tell you, I can sell you this gallon of water for $1. If you ask me what the price of this, you want to be able to buy that gallon of water in year 2 for $1, I now have to build in the risk, and the price on that is going to be $1.50 or whatever based on the risk. So at that time, BPL made up its mind that its appetite or its ability for the hedge would be set at a certain premium that they were willing to pay per month. And based on that premium remaining steady, that also dictated that the volumes had to go down as you go further out and the risk increased. So as the risk went up, the price would go up. And so in order to remain, for those of you, this is me trying to be an economist now, when you start talking about the equilibrium pricing, when one goes up and the other's coming down, in order to keep that price the same, you have to have this sliding scale. And so the volumes came down as the prices and the risk went up. And so hence we have the declining balance. So I'm here to say today that basically what we have is that the hedge remains in place. We continue to be in the money on the hedge. And then I guess the next question may be, why didn't you increase the volumes as time went on? As time went on, some conditions happened in the market. Things happened that even the futures experts at the time the hedge was placed did not imagine. So we had the reopening of the world's economies as people realized that COVID was sending us into a serious spiral. So demand went back up, supply came down a bit, and as well as that, we also had a situation where Can I get my water? Yeah. So we also had a situation where once the markets opened, we had the situation with the war that broke out in Ukraine. So once that happened, that started to disrupt supply chain around the world, and prices shot up by magnitudes of 100%, as I think the minister and the prime minister mentioned in the speech the other day. So what did that mean? That mean the 20% that expired, the conditions were not conducive to ramp back up because the prices were high now. So you're at the other end of the spectrum. If the price is high, nobody's going to sell you fuel at $40 a barrel when the market price is $100, because you're going to have to start off paying me the gap. And the risk or the probability that it's going to come down is going to be very slow or low. So what happens is you change your hedging strategy depending on the conditions in the market at the time. So what BPL is doing right now is we're talking with the industry experts, and we're assessing where the market is at and what our resources can accommodate, and we're looking at modifying or amending our hedging strategy. And perhaps the financial people will speak to it when they come up, but I am told that the hedging strategy under the current market conditions is where you move to something called a hedge collar. Like you all, I've been Googling it and trying to figure out what it is. So when you all, if anybody could assist me with understanding the collar, you could see me afterwards. That being said, if you have any questions about where we're at, I'd be happy to answer them or attempt to answer them. Excuse me. So what's it? Did I hit the point? Yes.
Good morning, Krishna Russell from the Tribune.
Yes.
Just a quick question, in light of the increase, what can you say to consumers about the reliability of power, one, and then also can you give us, I guess, is the 12 months a realistic timeline for the new solar grid, and do you yet know how much it's going to cost?
You remember all those questions, right? Okay, so the first one, in terms of the reliability of the grid, the reliability of the grid is actually pretty high at the moment, believe it or not. It's just that, and I know a lot of people are concerned about some of the outages that we've had in recent time, but those were primarily due to inclement weather. We're a flat island. We're prone to lightning strikes, and as luck would have it, when lightning is trying to find its easiest path to ground, the thing that's sticking up out there is our 100-foot pole. And so it's the thing that attracts the lightning. Now, we have protective mechanisms in place that protect against that, such as lightning rods and grounds, lightning arresters and what have you. And we have grounds on our infrastructure that is supposed to reroute the lightning to the ground. We continue to have the nuisance of people stealing the grounds off of our poles, which increases the risk of lightning strikes and the severity of those strikes. In addition to that, one of the things that because I get this question a lot, one of the things that I tell people is that at BPL, we do not do live line work. And so we have to do maintenance. And as we do maintenance, we have to isolate portions of the system for our people to work. So as you imagine, we're a 24/7, 365-day per year organization, and we do maintenance daily. So every day somewhere on this island, there's an area that's probably going to experience a little outage here and there. But PR team, they do a good job of putting the notices out on Facebook as to the areas that we're going to be in. And so if you have a concern, if you didn't see it, you call into the emergency room, they should be able to tell you how long that area will be out. But not every outage is a reliability or an availability issue. The other thing that we have is that our system is an external system. We're pretty much above ground for the most part, and most people would ask the question why you're not underground, and the basic answer to that is the cost of underground infrastructure is 4 times that of overhead infrastructure. So if we were to put infrastructure underground, if you think electricity is expensive now, it would be pretty much unaffordable for most of us. And I say all that to say, because with our overhead infrastructure, it's susceptible a lot to third-party interference. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that run into poles on a daily basis. And as the holiday season comes, this is my little plug on this, it gets worse. So please, your designated drivers and all of that as the holiday season comes upon us. That was, the solar grid. The solar grid, We are on an aggressive schedule. We're trying to get that in place. Realistically, whether it be in place in 12 months, I won't stand here and say no, but it is doable. But it's going to require a lot of things falling in place at the right time. And that's the best answer I can give you on that.
How much is it gonna cost, do you know?
I have no idea how much it's going to cost.
And lastly, how much of an impact is that expected to have, though, on the general situation and the pockets of consumers?
Okay, so our preliminary calculations, the solar grid that is being discussed or planned at the moment is about 60 megawatts to be introduced into New Providence. Our preliminary calculations are showing us that that is going to save us about $23 million per year in fuel costs.
Yesterday, Jasper Ward, Nassau Guardian. Yesterday, Minister of Works and Utilities, Alfred Sears, alluded to a boiler not being available to heat and strain heavy fuel oil, the cheapest fuel oil for the new Wärtsilä plant, as leading to higher fuel costs. BPL commissioned a boiler system for the new plant because it is responsible for fuel to delivery to Wärtsilä. Is that boiler system operational, and can you say which dates since it was commissioned has it been down, and what type of fuel is the new plant burning now?
Okay, those are a lot of very, very specific, detailed questions, and I didn't come with my generation report to answer you on all of them. But I'll give you a brief overview of how HFO burns, okay? So HFO is a fuel that has the consistency almost of like molasses or tar. In order for you to burn HFO, you have to pre-treat it. And to pre-treat it, you have to heat it, which decreases the viscosity of it and allows it to, what we call, to be atomized properly. Well, first you have to do a separation process. It has to be at the right temperature in order for that separation to take place, to take out some of the contaminants. I won't get into all the details, what we call the cat fines. And then once you've pre-treated it, it also has to be heated to a certain consistency for when you put it into the engine to inject and to combust. We could go into more details with that. I'm a fuel guy, but I won't bore you with that. But the bottom line is, if it's not pre-treated properly, you impact the efficiency of burning it. You impact the emissions that come out as a result of the combustion of it, and what have you. So what we have is a situation where the boiler capacity or the ability to pre-treat HFO has hampered or hindered the quantities of HFO that we've been able to burn. And I guess this is a follow-up on the discussion about the plant not being able to perform as it was planned or envisioned. And when you're unable to burn HFO, what you will do is you will switch to your backup fuel, which is the ADO, which is the more costly fuel. So because of issues that BPL has had over the recent years with its capacity to properly treat and burn HFO, we've been consuming volumes of ADO that are significantly higher than those that were envisioned when the hedge was put in place. And so at the end of the day, when you add up the basket of fuels and the total price of the fuel that we've consumed, it has been a little bit more than what was envisioned with the hedge. So obviously the hedge offsets your fuel costs. If your fuel cost is higher than anticipated, then your yield from the overall exercise is not as was envisioned or originally planned.
Another question. So we know that BPL and the IDB executed a hedge for 3 years starting in the summer of 2020. Mm-hmm. That should still be in place.
Yes.
That was supposed to be for heavy fuel oil. And that a certain percent of that fuel was executed by rolling hedges, which is mainly the ADO you just mentioned. The question that BPL, or the government for that matter, has yet to answer is, did the Davis administration approve the rolling hedge request that BPL submitted last September?
I'm not sure I understand the question, to be honest, because when you hedge, you don't necessarily hedge the specific fuel that you use. My understanding is that we're hedged on Brent crude, but the volumes that you hedge are based on your generation mix and your actual production plan. So BPL's production plan dictated how it hedged with the Brent crude, and it was on, as you said, rolling or declining volumes as we put it. So I'm not quite sure I grasp the scope of your question. You want to just explain it a little bit more and bring some clarity to it? Because it's not specifically ADO. The gist of it is that we're burning more ADO than what was in the plan or in the forecast when the hedge was put in place.
Asking whether the request that was submitted last September, was that approved by the government? Was that ever submitted?
I'm not aware of a request that was submitted last September.
Mr. Cambridge, Tyler Semina for Eyewitness News. Would you be able to say how much BPL is using now in the rental generation and at what cost? I think 83 megawatts of rental generation was acquired for the summer. I think Mr. Sears said that back in June. Would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, the 83 megawatts of rental is still in place. The exact cost, I cannot say. We could find out what it is and get back to you, but I don't have that figure in my head. But basically what we have is a situation where our demand is about 260 megawatts or thereabouts, and that was for the summer. Inclusive of the rental units, I think we have installed about 320. And the reason for that is that when you operate a power system, you tend to operate on the premise of what we call N-2. And so you're operating your system from the point of view that you should be able to lose your two largest units and still be able to meet your demand. So that is the reason why the rental units are there. They're there to supplement BPL's install capacity and allow us to be able to provide you with safe and reliable power. One might ask, after the demand drops in the summer, why don't the rentals leave? The off-season is when we do our maintenance, and so we're going to be utilizing those rentals to fill the gap while we conduct the maintenance on our existing plant.
I just have one more question. Any concern at all for the BPL workers that are going up and sometimes disconnecting people's powers? You know, we had an incident with a member of the public attacking a BPL worker. Any concern of that?
There's no real concern about it, but these things happen from time to time. I mean, you run into these, unruly, belligerent consumers who, but the bottom line is that BPL and the law permits BPL to access its meter regardless of where it's at, and so we just would like to encourage the public to respect our workers. I know that, with the world being the way it is today, people may not be sure if you're a BPL worker, but all of our workers travel with ID, they're in uniform, and you have a right to ask for it, but once they provide it, we would ask that you just respect and show them the courtesies that come along with the position. If there's a doubt as to the authenticity of any of their ID or badging or whatever, feel free to call BPL. Call BPL, that's our help desk, and they will verify that for you.
Question for the minister, Minister Sears.
Introduce the minister. He's calling the minister. My press conference.
That sounds like there's no further questions for me.
Any further questions for the CEO?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. Just for further clarification as well, because you didn't understand timelines, when you heard the CEO talk about not understanding to Jasper's question on the whether something was presented in September. Remember the timeline. The government took it over on September 16th. A new board did not get into place until November 22nd. So it would have been under the old CEO, who would have been there, Mr. Hasty, and the old board would have been in place at that time. The new CEO took over in May of this year. So you understand why some things he may not be privy to. Mr. Hasty, I'm sure people can be in contact with him. Many of you are already in contact with him. May be able to give explanation and clarity to your questions, all right, regarding that. But obviously, the timeline is important to understand. Then that's why the new CEO and his board and the government are working, having gotten in place to try and right a lot of the wrongs that were done and ensure that the corporation, the company, has what it needs to be able to restructure and provide the kind of level of service that we deem important and necessary to the people today. One of the other questions, I think, generating out of discussion since Tuesday has been the why now, and why, when it was first proposed to do the increase, did not the government agree to it? I'm going to ask Minister Sears to come and explain that. Prime Minister's explained it quite eloquently, but sometimes it begs repeating. Why now rather than why then? I'm going to ask the Minister responsible for BPL, the Minister of Works, the Honorable Alfred Sears, to come and explain why that was put off. I think, barring all, we've said it over and repeatedly, Prime Minister knew at that time it was not the right time. Country was still just trying to reopen. People were still trying to get things done. People were unemployed. We were dealing with a spike in COVID. Could you imagine having to deal with a spike in electricity going into the peak periods? But Minister, you come on and speak further to that particular question.
Good morning. Yes, on this question of timing, I just want to point out that there were a number of antecedent events. One is the government, as the shareholder of BPL, wanted there to be a systematic and comprehensive response to the energy delivery, generation, and around the same time that the new CEO was installed, the Ministry of Finance engaged an international advisory company, and that is McKinsey, and to help to provide advice in terms of how to address the this rising increase of petroleum costs globally, and to institute the necessary change in the fuel charge in a manner that was that would protect vulnerable consumers. They recommended a glide path strategy. After BPL and its board considered the advice of McKinsey, they made a presentation to the cabinet. The cabinet agreed to provide what we call the back support, and that is the financial subsidization in terms of the accumulated and accumulating arrears. And I gave in the communication yesterday the subsidies that were provided, and the increase was structured in a way so that vulnerable consumers would be able to manage. And that is the two rates, that is consumption up to 800 kilowatt hour, which would be 2 cents, and the higher rate above 300 kilowatts. So that is the antecedent events to the choice that is by the board, the recommendation to the cabinet, and the decision to announce the increase based on this glide path strategy.
Questions?
Yes. First question for you, Minister. In the PLP's Blueprint for Change, under your energy policy, it states, within the first 100 days, we will cause a review of BPL operations to reduce costs of electricity, maintain reliable supply, and enter into contractual arrangements which would put BPL on a solid financial footing, and most importantly, reduce the cost of living and doing business in the Bahamas. This week, the government announced that light bills are going up tremendously. Did that review ever take place?
Well, there is an international accounting firm, and that accounting firm is currently in BPL carrying out a review.
How long is that expected to take?
Well, again, you know, it's a forensic. It's a forensic review, and the accounting firm is well known to all of us because it has been published internationally, I mean locally, and on the social media at the time that they went into BPL. We've gotten a preliminary report, but a forensic, and you know, I've worked with forensic accountants over these past 25 years, representing some of the leading accounting firms in the Bahamas. It takes time because it's just like an audit. You are looking at transactions, you're looking also at organizational structure, you're looking at the corporate culture, and the aim in the findings is also to contain recommendations. BPL also has had another international advisory company, which is McKinsey. So I know that they have been very busy because when you have these accounting firms, advisory firms in your institution, you have to deploy resources, you have to deploy personnel who can get the necessary information they need, provide documents, schedule time to speak with various technical leaders within the organization. So that process, both by McKinsey as well as Deloitte's, is currently underway.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the CEO. Did the government approve the hedge requests last September and last December from BPO to keep the hedge the same?
Well, the hedge exists.
You said that, but
Yes.
those requests approved?
Well, the issue in terms of the hedge and the removal of the hedge never came to me. The hedge is part of the management structure, and I've explained the assumptions of the hedge were several. And I've explained in my answer to the question raised by Dr. Minnis. There were several events which basically challenged the assumptions of the hedge, and events which were beyond, some of which were beyond the anticipation, the expectation, even of futures experts. And that is this extraordinary increase in the price of petroleum. As a result of the pandemic, you have this disruption, which also contributed to the increase. And then, of course, we have a war with a major global petroleum supplier, which is Russia, the war with Russia and the Ukraine. So you have these external supervening events. And then locally, we also have the impact of the fire, which limited the capacity of the Clifton Pier Station to burn the heavy fuel, and thus having to rely increasingly on the more expensive fuel. And then you have the engines, which were purchased as on the basis of burning the heavy fuel, which was cheaper and today still is cheaper, increasingly due to factors I'm advised, which relate to the execution of that project, relying increasingly on the more expensive fuel. So those complex of external and internal factors resulted in the Bahamas specifically, separate and apart from the rising price of fuel based on international factors, were further the advantage and the assumption of the hedge was eroded by the internal decisions and events as well. And that is what I conveyed yesterday in the communication, as well as in my response to Dr. Minnis. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand the external factors that you've outlined, but why doesn't anyone appear willing to give a direct answer to a very legitimate and important public policy question?
Yeah, but you may not like the answer I gave, but I'm answering you as to the best of my ability. Ms. Simonet?
Will this BPL increase impact considerations to increase minimum wage in the short term?
Well, my portfolio is, and I will speak to my portfolio, which is that the increase of the fuel charge is been designed in a manner to minimize the deleterious negative impact on the residential consumers and vulnerable consumers. On the issue of the minimum wage, I'm sure the Minister of Labor and the Prime Minister would be able to address that issue.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay, you're welcome.
Just for clarification, and again, because I know, Jasper, you've been hampering on the fact of this September, whether the request was approved. I put a question to you, where are you getting that from? We never said about any requests being made available in September. So obviously, if you or your agency is privy to some, perhaps, information, then put it directly to those who are making the accusations. Let them come forward and say it. The minister said in September nothing was brought to him for any approval for anything as you suggested. We certainly as an administration have never said that. So I think it'll be, at this point, without justifiable facts, incorrect to suggest that there was even any request made, because that was never a part of any announcement we made of a request. And so if somebody is giving you information, quote, anonymously, perhaps they ought to give a little more information, because no one seems to be aware of what they're talking about. All right. Any other questions that we have for the administration before we go on to our guests who are here? Any other questions? Yes. Sure. Ms. Cambridge can. And as we go through, we're talking about any questions that you have on anything, so we can move from that section. Yes.
Okay, so I just want to know, Crystal Darling, Eyewitness News, how many people are currently disconnected, and what is the level of money that's owed to BPL? Do you have those numbers?
Again, a very, very specific question. But somebody else asked this question earlier in the week, and I think at the time when I checked, we had about 1,400 consumers who were disconnected at that time. But consumers could be disconnected for any number of reasons. And that was the rolling answer that came out of the computer. That may have included 100 who were just disconnected for immediate delinquency and reattached that same day. But it's around 1,400 or so.
And do you have a dollar amount of what's been owed?
The dollar amount, the way our accounts deal with that, it's done with 30-day, 60-day, 90-day. So I honestly couldn't say specifically address the dollar amount.
And you don't have like a
I don't want to give a wrong figure, I'll be honest. But if you contact me afterwards, you could tell me what specific period or what age of account you're looking at, and then we could probably get you some information on that.
Anything else, Ms. Cambridge?
All right.
Thank you. Let's Cambridge. Let's go through, see whatever else we can get from you. Anything for me, Berthany, our news? Nothing? Krishna, Tribune, anything else?
Hey, Clint, I know you and I had a little bit of back and forth this week about the allegations about victimization of civil servants. How do you respond to those claims? I mean, the F&M have obviously come up with those allegations, and then earlier this week we also spoke to a few civil servants who obviously were anonymous to protect their jobs, who have similar claims and allegations. Can you say about it?
I think what we need to first put in perspective is what are we calling victimization? I believe it does exist. It has existed for years. I certainly do. I've told my story over repeatedly of being a product of that. And so to stand up here and say, oh, it doesn't exist, will be foolish. Now, in this administration, because we are based on being a people's administration, I certainly would hope that that's not what we're doing. I can't speak for every individual who works in the government system. But I do know that there are positions, as we all know, that are political appointments where the governor or the administration would appoint somebody to the position, and when the administration changes, that person can be transferred or removed in political appointments. That's clear. Now, as for people who may have individual stories of saying, I was personally victimized, I encourage them to come forward. There is a recourse. There is a way to have that addressed if people feel they've been dealt a disservice. And I invite them to come forward and to the Minister responsible for public service, the Honorable Pierre Gloverol, who is very much open ear to listen to people and their concerns or complaints, and to have them addressed. I can't say, oh yeah, we know about so and so. I don't. But I do know that there's a recourse. And I do believe firmly that no one should have to face that. And if there are people who are facing that, I do encourage them to come forward and to have the matters addressed. I do hope that we can solve those issues where people have been dealt with unfairly and separate those from the political talks and the rhetorics that make the papers on a regular basis. As a journalist, the very same issue I brought to the very same former politician who spoke to you. And he was out enraged that I made such suggestions. But we had proof as well. And so it's so amazing that he comes back now as if, also self-righteous, that they're doing this to people. And I always say, if you're an advocate for people, then fight for people. Don't fight for political points. If you know somebody who's come to you who said they've been dealt a blow, there are relationships from past ministers to present ministers. You pick up the phone and call the ministers and say, so-and-so is not being treated fairly. Can you assist? Why are you doing that? Be the fight and the advocate for people rather than political points. And I think if we were more concerned about making headlines and making impact, we would be able to ensure that people who seriously have claims are addressed. If somebody comes to you as a former executive or minister and say, I'm being victimized, I would think the way would be to you to intervene and to find resolution for them, rather than the first thing you pick up is a phone to call the press. What does that accomplish? What does that serve? And so I believe if we're seriously concerned about ensuring that the public service is no longer seen as a playing ground where people are just shoved and pushed around, then we have to take serious steps to ensure that when people report complaints, that we try to help them and not help ourselves. All right, thank you, Krishna. Hopefully that gives you some kind of answer. Jasper Nassau-Garden, because she stepped out a second. Eyewitness News, Tyler, you're good? Okay, Eyewitness News Online, Crystal, you're good? Okay, Shelley Lewis, Global Radio, she stepped out as well. Keel from JCN, you're good as well? Okay, so good. We playing nice today. All right. So let's move to our next section, and that is, of course, this is Youth Month. And, of course, very important story, because we've been talking in our headlines about crime. We've been talking about economy. We've been talking about so many issues that all boils down to what are we doing for our young people in this country? Because that's the foundation to a lot of what the social ills that we've been facing is what's happening with our young people. And so this is not, I come from media. This is not what we call a soft story or a feature story we run on the weekends. But it seriously has important, Sasha gave me that look. It seriously have important implications because what we do for our young people today will determine what kind of country and society we have tomorrow. And even, you dare to say today. Because they're a part of not only the problems, but believe it or not, they're also a part of the solution. And I think we need to highlight and talk more about the solution. Lord, I'm sounding like what I used to hate people say, but it's true. We need to be able to encourage more and to talk more. And the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture is here, the Honorable Mario Boleg, and he and his team are here. And so I'm going to invite him to come and talk about this important month, and then his team will come and talk to you about some of the events that are happening. Minister of Youth.
Good morning, everybody. Well, of course, as Clint said, this is Youth Month, where we celebrate and recognize our youths for not only for the positive, but also try to put programs in place to deter them from the negative activities in life. And so this is an exciting time for our ministry when it comes to youths. They are the most important assets in this country. As Clint said, our future depends on our youth, and so we must invest in them and ensure that we teach them the right way, and then they will lead us as time goes on. So without further ado, I would like to bring to the podium my Director of Youth, who will talk about the plans and activities we have throughout the length and breadth of the country and every island as it relates to youth activities. Sandina Neely.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Minister. We are excited. As you can see, our theme is on the screen. We are presenting the 2022 National Youth Month celebrations nationwide under the theme Youth Building a Bold Future. Bold being bright, optimistic, labelless, and diverse. And we want each young person to capture this theme, to take ownership of this theme, to make this theme their very own. And our team is here. They can wave. They're all here supporting, and we are so pleased to have Undersecretary Montez Williams here along with us as well, and persons from our communications department. The entire ministry is abuzz and ablaze with Youth Month activities. And so just to give you a snapshot of what we have going on, and we have one of our very special partners who will come and greet you in a few moments. He's celebrating a very special anniversary for his event. First up, we have Jesus in the Park that's happening tomorrow night on October 7th at the grounds of BFM. That is a long-standing partnership that we have with Maurice Fox, who we know better as DJ Godson. And so we want you all to come out tomorrow night in person. That's going to be exciting. And then we have one of our partner youth organizations called NU, led by Antonia Lightborn and her team. They are offering a speech competition next Tuesday at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. You can check our Facebook page for ways that you can get young people to sign up. And then we have a very, very special event that's happening on Saturday, October 15th. It's a closed event, but we want the public to be aware that we recognize the need to include the youth of our nation who are wards of the state or are housed in children's homes, and they will be a part of a very special Connect and Paint, not Sip and Paint, but Connect and Paint event that's going to be at a secure location where they can be celebrated, they can be highlighted, and they can be a part of National Youth Month. And then on the same day, we have a youth empowerment symposium led by one of our partners, Felicity Darville. It's called #Goals. And you can check our Facebook page as well. If you want to have young persons sign up, all of our events are 100% free. So you can feel free to have as many young persons participate as possible. And then not to be forgotten, we have our youth leaders, youth allies, youth advocates, youth workers. We always seek during National Youth Month to honor them. They are the persons who would have blazed the trails. And so as you would have seen yesterday in the House of Assembly, we are honoring a beautiful couple from Grand Bahama, Reverend Leslie and Commandant Yvonne McDonald. And posthumously, we're honoring Miss Anita Doherty. And under their patronage, we are hosting a youth leaders reception. That's invitation only. And so if you are a youth leader and you wish to attend the reception, you can contact us on Facebook, Division of Youth 242, or at our office at 5020-736, or via email at celebrateyouthbahamas@gmail.com so that you can get your invitation, so that you can attend the Youth Leaders Reception. It's a time to highlight the patrons as well as to network with your fellow youth leaders. On the 22nd, we have the all-exciting scavenger hunt that's going to be happening in the streets of Nassau. And then on the 23rd, for the first time since the pandemic, we have the National Youth Rally and March. That's starting with a very special presentation of a mini band encounter. And then the first iteration of an in-person youth award since the pandemic is happening on Wednesday, October 26th at BFM, starting with a red carpet at 6 p.m. So we outside, and we want everybody to come completely dressed so that you can see the nation's best, the nation's brilliance, and the nation's young people as they are highlighted and celebrated. Perchance you want to nominate a young person. Nominations are closing the end of this week. You can visit our Facebook page, and you will see a post pinned at the top where you can secure a nomination form in order to nominate and highlight your young people. Youth Parliament is always very exciting, and so our young people will be in the halls of Parliament again on Friday, October 28th. And for the very first time, we are so pleased to be welcoming youth in the Senate, rounding off the month in New Providence on Monday, October 31st. Not to be left out, the Family Islands are also on board. Grand Bahama is having their Youth Awards on October 15th. They're having their Youth March on the same day as us on Sunday, October 23rd. We're looking forward to that. And yesterday, Grand Bahama would have kicked off their school tours. So look out for more information on a school near you in Grand Bahama, where our team of Carla Brown Roca and Kenneth Miller will be visiting schools, highlighting young people, highlighting all of the events that are happening from West End to East End, the city of Freeport, and all over. In Eleuthera, they are having their Youth Awards on the 22nd, along with a number of other events. In Long Island on the 15th, they are hosting a family fun day, so that's going to be exciting. You want to go out to that. And coming up on the 10th, on the holiday, Andros in North Andros is hosting a family fun day as well. So whatever island you're on, you can connect with your Family Island administrator so that you can gain more information on how you can be involved in all of the activities that we have. This is National Youth Month. This is not New Providence Youth Month. And so we would encourage each person, each partner, each youth group, civic organization, club, school, church to participate and take complete ownership of National Youth Month. Again, you can contact us on Facebook, Division of Youth 242, Instagram, Division of Youth 242, and we are on TikTok, Celebrate Youth Bahamas. Please follow us. You'll see some very, very exciting content. And we want to continue to send the message of inclusion. And we are grateful for the opportunity that has been extended to us by the Office of the Prime Minister to come on such a platform to highlight what's happening for National Youth Month. We hope for more opportunities like this to highlight our programs that are going to be coming up, Youth Leaders Certification Program, the Fresh Start Program, the Job Ready Program, so that you can see the amazing transformations that are taking place with our young people. And so this is our first time, but this won't be our last time, hopefully. We look forward to being back with you. And just before we wrap up, we want to invite our partner, Maurice Fox, in the person of DJ Godson, to talk about the 10th anniversary of Jesus in the Park and why it's so important.
Good morning, everyone. We are ready for Jesus in the Park. That's happening tomorrow. That's Friday, October 7th at 7 p.m. at BFM, on the grounds of BFM. Bahamas Faith Ministry is Carmichael Road. It is a free event, and we invite, it's well known now, and we have grown tremendously, and so we have a huge crowd that comes out. We actually even had it through the pandemic where we had a drive-up event, and it was very much successful. We had a tailgate party, and it was very successful. And our mission, of course, with Jesus in the Park is to spread the gospel. It's an outreach, and we want to make sure the young people understand that we could turn up for Jesus, we could be cool with Jesus, we could love Jesus, and still be okay. And we want to make sure that the future understands, our young people understand that that you can't go wrong with Jesus. And so it's important for us to come out and definitely be there. And so Jesus in the Park is happening tomorrow night at BFM. We're going to have food vendors out there, so there'll be food, drinks. We have international artists such as Nigel Lewis, Sharon Gardner out of Trinidad, Kerry Diamond out of Jamaica, and of course, all of the nation's best. We have the singing bishop, of course, Prophet Lawrence Roll will be there. Simeon Outen out of Freeport will be there. Oslin Jadot. We have artists like Big Brush, Annette, you name it. Shabak is going to be there, so you're going to see the press secretary singing tomorrow as well. And so we have a whole slate of artists going to be there, and we're honoring some persons as well, where we have honorees, and we also have some Lifetime Achievement Awards that we're going to give out. So it's going to be an exciting time. If you miss it, like the young people say, you diss it. So make sure you're in the place tomorrow night.
Thank you so very much, DJ Godson. We're looking forward to it. And so we just want to thank again our minister for being here and leading the way with us. In her absence, we want to pay homage to our permanent secretary, Mrs. Cora Bain Colebrook, who we solicit continued prayers for. She is funeralizing her husband, former Deputy Director of Sports, Kevin Colebrook, this Saturday. And so we want to keep her in prayer. We want to again thank our Undersecretary, Mr. Montez Williams, for being here, and our Deputy Permanent Secretary in her absence, Mrs. Suzanne Knowles. All of the tiers of leadership of our ministry, we remain grateful. All of the exciting, exuberant staff from the Division of Youth, the crown jewel of our ministry. Yes, we always highlight that. And we just want to say again, thank you so much. A very special thank you to all persons from the media who always show up and show out and support our events. We are indebted to you all. Questions?
Any questions for the director? Y'all be obedient today. Thank you, Director. We appreciate you being here. Finally, in our press conference today, we always like highlighting Bahamian businesses that are making a difference, that are out there doing what they do best, even despite the challenges. And today we're highlighting nothing, get it, nothing but bananas. And coming the proprietors of that, speaking will be Ms. Monique Roll to tell us a little bit about nothing but bananas. Come on up and tell us a bit about that.
Good morning. So Nothing But Bananas is a passion that it was founded on the love of banana bread by my husband.
Yes.
Believe it or not, I don't like bananas. But he loved banana bread. And I got tired of him always asking people who made banana bread for banana bread, because he was like hounding people. So I said, you know what? Here's a problem. Let me solve it. And I started making banana bread. And it's been a hit. I've had persons from my church who said to me, you know what? You really need to monetize this. This is too good to keep to yourself. It's moist, delicious, it's flavorful. It's the best I've ever had. And that's been the thing that everyone has been saying. So we did just that. And we started in July of this past year. And then we had a pop-up the following week. And we sold out of 100 pans of banana bread.
Yes.
Everybody loved it. We offer different flavors from coconut, coconut crunch, your chocolate chip, your banana nut. We have blueberry. You name it, we've got it. And so today, you'll be able to sample our classic, our banana nut crunch, as well as our coconut cran. And we want you to experience happiness in every bite. Yes.
Tell them how we can reach out to you and find you.
You can contact us at phone number 428-4038, or our social media handles are Instagram as well as Facebook, Nothing But Bananas, Nuttin, but bananas.
The best. The best. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us. We wish you all the best in your endeavors. That concludes our press conference this week. As usual, if you have any questions or concerns, need to reach us for any responses, please contact us here at the Prime Minister's press office, here at the Office of the Prime Minister. We're happy to reach out to you. Thank you for being with us, and have a good afternoon, everyone. Sure.